Parkinson, will you call the roll?
Dr. Beal? Here. Mr. Jones? Here. Mrs. Paczynski? Here. Mrs. Ern?
Here.
Mrs. Warner is absent.
Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are going to change the order and present Robin Hopkins, the principal of South High School, and then we will go to the remainder of the agenda items.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. So I'm so excited, first of all, this evening to be able to present the top 10 students at South High School. So before you, we have our top 10 and members of the board. I will go through and I will explain just a little bit about each and every one of them as they stand and get their accolades. All right, we will start with Jacob Mikulsic. See? Jacob is here with his mom. Looks like a little buddy over there. Jacob was the freshman class president, and he was during his sophomore year, he was on drama club. He is going to Case Western Reserve University. He will be majoring in biology to become an orthopedic surgeon. And something that's funny about him, his car is older than he is. Thank you so much, Jacob. I don't believe Samson is here.
Oh, yeah.
Just wanted.
Yeah, sure.
All right. All right, Samson. How are you? All right, this is Samson Griffin, and you're here with your mom and dad?
Yep.
All right, mom and dad. And as you can tell, he plays baseball. He will be attending the University of Cincinnati to study aerospace engineering, and he wants to become an astronaut or become the head engineer at NASA. And what's exciting about him or funny is that he is a Browns fan, and he expects them to go to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Mr. Baker, it's your time. This is Jacob Baker, and Jacob has been on the track team, swimming, and cross country. He plans to attend Bowling Green State University to study aviation and become a commercial pilot. And what is interesting about him, it's not really funny, but he's proud of the fact that he qualified for regionals in cross country. Isabel Neckick. Isabel is here with her mom and dad. Mom and dad, where are you? Okay. And Isabel has participated in cross country, track, and Skills USA. She has plans to attend the Miami University of Ohio or Ohio State. She hasn't made a decision. You made a decision. OSU. All right. And she will be studying either computer science or software engineering to become a computational linguist. And what is a fun fact about her is that she earned her boating license at the age of 12. Did Maya show up yet? No, she's still a sophomore. Okay. All right, Lillian Neneshman. Did I get it? No. All right, Lillian is here with her mom. Lillian has been a part of the marching band, wind, symphony, and NHS. She plans on going to Marietta College to study physics, where she wants to obtain her doctorate and study and teach astronomy at a university. What's fun about her is that she can play 6 instruments. Wow, right? Sarah Cosentino is here with her mom, and Sarah, it's a lot here. All right, she's the president of the National Honor Society. She's the secretary of student government. She's participated in Key Club, track, and cross country. She plans to go to Ohio State University, and she's going to study neuroscience, where she wants to become a doctor and become fluent in Spanish, because she wants to travel, Doctors Without Borders, right? All right. 24 people in the U.S. also have the same name as Sarah. All right, Jackson. Jackson Burkholder is here with his mom. Hi. Jackson has participated in marching band, the principal's crew, and NHS. He has finally decided he is going to Ohio State University. So we have 3 going to OSU here. And he will be studying mathematics because he wants to pursue a career in business. And one interesting fact about him is that he plays in 7 different Dungeons and Dragons. 7 different. Katie Johnson. Katie is here with her mom. Katie is on the academic decathlon, which is going to nationals. And she's on the golf team, student government, NHS, Key Club, drama club, swimming, and diving. She does everything. And she plans on going to Arizona State University to study aerospace engineering and work for SpaceX or NASA. And the fun, exciting thing about her is that she is the Division I state champion in academics. Did Daniel show up? Daniel? No? Okay. Thomas. This is Thomas Marchini.
Yeah, that's okay.
Close enough, sorry. Thomas is a part of our bowling team and also is a CCP student. He plans on going to the University of Akron, where he is going to study chemical engineering to become a chemical engineer. And what's exciting about him, or funny, is that his initials spell Tom. And these are our top 10 students.
What I would like to do is get you guys up against the white wall outside in the hallway. Yeah, where the TV is, kind of we'll angle around it. I get some pics, moms and dads, aunts and uncles can get pics, then I'll send you out on Twitter land and you'll be famous. Let's go.
Good evening again. I have been tasked with the responsibility of coming and sort of sharing with you what's going on at South and how we're meeting our goals. I'd first like to begin by just saying thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this family. It's been a wonderful experience for me, and I enjoy very much being a part of this experience. So the goal of the district is to improve student achievement. And our goal is to improve student achievement in 3 ways. By making students first, having quality instruction, and time on task. And so my job was to figure out how to do that. So what I did at the beginning of the school year was I tasked my staff, I challenged them as well, as to figure out how can we each touch one of these goals. And so what you see is the first goal is students first. And so I had a challenge. My first piece was the non-negotiable. The non-negotiable was that they were to collect some data on each student the first week. Find something out about them, get to know them, get to learn them, either them personally or how they learn. And then each staff member was to choose one of those personal challenges you see there and determine which one they were going to use in order to challenge themselves this school year. So then what was my commitment as the principal? As the principal, my commitment was, number one, to greet my students good morning every day. I walk around the building and I say good morning from the time I walk in until the first bell rings. And all the students know that Ms. Hopkins is coming to say good morning. They all say good morning back to me. And that's how I get to know them. That's how I get to see who they hang with and just kind of have fun. The second thing is we put together as a team the Rebel Way. And you may have seen that somewhere or another. But the Rebel Way is respect, excellence, belief, effort, and leadership. And that's something that we focus on. We mentioned it on the announcements about every other day. We've spent some time, our freshmen have spent some time talking about it. And so that's the Rebel Way. I put in place a student leadership team called the Principal's Crew. Jackson mentioned that because he was a member of that. The other thing is that we promote student activities through social media. I don't know, have any of you seen my pictures on social media? I am known for blasting out tons of things on social media. So I spend a lot of time just having fun, as you can see in our pictures, with the students. And then supporting our staff. I think it's important that in order for my staff to feel like they can make that commitment, I have to make sure I'm providing them the supports that they need. And so that's my commitment to students first. I shared I think the data that I picked out to share this was discipline data connected to being in class. Students who feel comfortable, who feel like their teachers care about who they are, want to stay in class. And so as of about a week ago, you can see this data, the difference in class cuts, insubordination, and disorderly conduct. The numbers are not high in any stretch of the imagination, but they're lower this year. And then our suspension numbers we're 5% of our students. That's 5%, and that is the second lowest in the district. And so we're really doing, trying to make our students feel comfortable at South High. The second goal is quality instruction. The non-negotiable is what we've been talking about as a district all year, which is research-based instructional strategies. And they should be used in the classroom every single day. And then each of the teachers had to choose one of those personal goals for themselves. And so then my job as the administrator, my job is one, to be in the classrooms every day, walking around, looking, checking out what's going on, what are they doing? Are they using research-based instructional strategies? We have our professional development days, but then how am I focusing on that every day or every day in my building, helping my staff to grow professionally? And so I have a weekly bulletin that I put out, and in my weekly bulletin, I put a professional reading in there. And then at my staff meetings, we also talk about these same goals over and over again. We have a building leadership team, and the focus of the building leadership team is to talk about instruction and how we can help our teachers become better at the things that they do every single day. And then we talk about how to better collaborate. How can we work together to improve our practices? Because we know that when we work together, we're always better as a team. And with that being said, we added some teacher-based team meetings. As a team, we felt like our teachers needed to get together again, to spend more time collaborating. And we figured out a way to finagle our schedule in the building so that we can add a few extra meetings for them to collaborate. And the data that I would share is that one of the things that we do is we walk around and we do what we call walkthroughs. And those classroom visits, there have been 145 in my building. Of those 145 class visits, 66% of the time, students were learning at high levels. They were not just base learning like the facts, but they were actually taking information and analyzing it, synthesizing it, trying to figure out how to make these things connect. 86% of the time, the teachers were using research-based instructional strategies. And so while those numbers are 100%, we will continue to grow them and work them, but that's pretty good. As you saw, we have students who are performing really well. We had 287 students on the principal's list. And they had to have a 3.6 and above to make that. And that's 28% of our students. And then we had 3.0 and higher as honor roll. 60% of our students met that goal. The third goal was time on task. How do we keep our students engaged in learning in the classroom? How do we get them to really be excited about what they're doing? And so my non-negotiable for the staff at the beginning of the years was what we call 40 minutes of heat. Teach bell to bell. I want heat, just going. And then, of course, there's that 5 minutes at the beginning and end when you have to do a little small task, but 40 minutes of straight heat. And then the personal challenge for each of the teachers had to, of course, choose one of those 4 personal challenges. For me, again, the only way I know if they're doing 40 minutes of heat is if I'm in the classroom. And so it's about visiting those classrooms every day. The second thing is continuing to talk about what engagement looks like. We had a really good conversation about what does an engaged student look like? How can we define what that is? And we began to talk about that. And we began to talk about, do our kids even know how to be engaged students? Because they know how to be engaged this way. Do they know how to be engaged in the classroom? And so we had some really good conversations even with students about how to be an engaged student. And then last but not least, as an administrator, trying to minimize the disruptions that are happening in the classroom. That way, teachers can focus on what's going on. The data, of those 145 classroom visits, 79% of the time, students were engaged. And 71% of the time, students could verbalize what the expected learning task was. Meaning, I would ask, what are you supposed to be learning today? And they would be able to tell me, this is what we're learning, this is what we're doing. That says to me that they at least were engaged enough to know what was going on in the classroom. And then in terms of our, I looked at our grade distribution, 77% of our grades are C or higher. So our students are doing well. And then the last piece of information I wanted to share with you is about our at-risk seniors. At the beginning of the school year, our seniors were at risk of not graduating. We had a significant number of students because of the Ohio State test. And that the governor, the Board of Education, they had determined that there wasn't going to be an alternative pathway. And so we had to put together some supports for those students.
State Board of Education.
The State Board of Education, very much, sorry, State Board of Education. So we had to put together some supports for those kids to try to get them to pass those tests. And we put supports in place. And the top graph sort of shares just how the students performed during the difference between students with support and the difference between students without support. And our students with support, of course, performed much better. To the point that if you look at our numbers, we ended up with 100 students who were in this situation. Of those 100 students, there were a few students that we could take off because of different circumstances. They were in a different school or alternately assessed. There were 71 left. Of that 71, 43 of them earned their points to graduate. That's 61%. That is an amazing number. We were absolutely proud of that.
And she means without the alternative pathway.
Exactly. So they earned their 18 points. They didn't have to take that other path because of the supports that we were able to put in place. So we were very excited about that. And so as we move forward, I will continue to focus on this. It doesn't change. It will continue to be improving student achievement. How? Students first, quality instruction, and time.
Thank you. We are looking to go to the public comment section. Mr. Parkinson, is there anybody that has registered to speak?
Yes, Mrs. Ernst,
I am going to read the rules on public participation. Even though I read them once, they will apply to every individual who has filled out paperwork to speak. Attendees, of course, must register their intention to participate in the public portion of the meeting upon their arrival. Participants will be requested to preface their comments announcing their name, address, and group affiliation if appropriate. Each statement made by the participant shall be limited to 3 minutes duration. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person shall address or question board members individually. The portion of the meeting during which the participation of the public is invited should be limited to 20 minutes. Mrs. McQuiggan?
MCGYGAN. My address is 36260 Valley Vista Drive in Islip. I'm here today to provide follow-up and go on record regarding the concerns I had with the lockdown procedure at Longfellow Elementary School's latchkey program on February 25th when Dollar Bag was robbed on Vine Street. I brought this up at the last board meeting. I think it's important to be transparent and do my best to articulate the correspondence that happened after the meeting out of the public's view. A few days after the March meeting, I sent Mr. Thompson an email to ask what was going to be done at Longfellow Elementary and possibly other schools in the district when there is a potential lockdown situation during the before or after school programs. Mr. Thompson quickly responded via email, and I quote, "Latchkey is run by the YMCA and simply housed in our district. I would suggest you contact the YMCA for their procedures and protocols." Shocked, saddened, and frankly angered by the callous response I received, I forwarded this message to all of you on the board during the review. It's important that I point out there are teachers, custodians, other staff members, and children in the school building after 3 p.m. for academic programs like Math Masters, etc., and they are not part of the latchkey program that are occupying the building. I don't expect this administration to be perfect. We're human, we make mistakes. My hope in bringing attention to this protocol failure was to ensure that we fix what's broken and learn from the mistake going forward. In this instance, I would have expected that the lockdown protocol would have been an extremely important joint effort put together by the YMCA, the safety director of the school district, and the Eastlake Police Department. Seeing that nobody from the administration was taking any action to resolve this matter, I forwarded Mr. Thompson's correspondence to a number of parents who have children in Longfellow's latchkey program. One of those parents, Heather Freeman, spent the last few weeks asking questions and following up with the Y to determine where the failure was and how to fix it so this would not happen again. Thankfully, she did this because it was determined that the Eastlake Police Department did not have the phone numbers or the contact information for the Y-Care staff inside the building. Their protocol had them contacting the office of the school building, whose phones are automatically turned to night mode at 4 p.m. As a parent in this district, my job is to volunteer bingo in this parking lot to collect money for my PTO in my kids' classroom. My job is to chaperone school field trips and help get levies passed by dispelling rumors and offering facts to voters in the district. School safety is not my job. It's not Heather Freeman's job. It's your job. And this is what 63% of my taxes are paying for. Thank you.
That coincides with what was stated at the last meeting. And I'm not trying to be callous, but I don't have a building principal there. I have no way of ensuring a safety lockdown. That is the responsibility of the YMCA. It is not the responsibility of the school district. I don't have the personnel in place. The district was never contacted by the police department. Typically we are. We never were. We still have not been contacted by the police department about Dollar Bank. When it occurred, how it occurred. Apparently the Eastlake Police Department did not feel that our students were at risk.
Or they dropped the ball.
Or they dropped the ball, I don't know, I don't know. But when we don't know, and if I get a phone call at 4 o'clock, it's not that I'm gonna ignore it, I'm gonna do what I can do. But I don't have the procedures and personnel in place to go into a lockdown. They're renters. Many people rent our building across this district at various times. It cannot be the responsibility of the school district to go in and go into a lockdown, ensure that a lockdown takes place for liability reasons, for a host of other reasons. That has to be the renter's responsibility. They're responsible for the students, not Will Eastlake citizens.
But they're our kids.
I understand that they are our
They're our
kids,
kids.
and we'll do what we can, Stacy, but if I get a phone call, I'm gonna respond to it. But I didn't get a phone call, I had no idea that there was a robbery.
Right.
And all I can do at that point is call Steve Johnson, do our best to go down there and communicate with him. But the school district cannot and will not assume the liability and responsibility of renters who are licensed after-school care program. It is their responsibility, not ours.
Well, then maybe we need to find another latchkey program who's going to step up and have proper procedures and protocols in place, because whenever I've talked about any of these things with you or Mr. Netlick, I've always told that the student safety is of the utmost importance, and that we meet with chiefs of police, we meet with principals, and this is a whole big group effort. Why would the people who are in charge of our latchkey program not be part of that group of people who are meeting?
They could be.
They should be, right?
Well, that's their responsibility is what I'm saying to you. They pay rent along with other entities.
Yeah, the can.
It's not about kicking the can. It is about liability. It is about having, I can't promise to you or anyone else that I can execute a safe plan without our folks there. I don't have the ability to do that.
But what can we do better next time? So when a man with a gun is a quarter of a mile from our children who may be standing outside of the school, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them isn't grabbed and held hostage, could we at least say,
Yeah.
we're gonna get them in the school and lock them? That's all. Steve, you and I have spent enough time together that you know, I am working to be effective. And when there's something that I see, I don't even have a child in Latchkey at Longfellow. And this is the second time I've come to the board meeting to have this discussion. I don't have to have a child at Longfellow. I feel like these kids are ours on Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock if something happens to them. They're ours. And from a liability perspective, they're not. But what can we do better? That's all. With Chief Wright, with the YMCA. What can we do better next time? Hey, you know what? We did it this time. What can we do better next time?
I'll have an answer. That's good.
And you know, and that's very, very possible. What happened, from what I understand, the man went into the bank and claimed to have a gun. I do not know, and it's very possible that the Eastlake Police Department knew the man didn't have a gun. Maybe they had surveillance, maybe, I don't know. But what would have been great after this came up was, hey, Larry, what happened? Oh, we knew, it was on our radar. We chose not to put anybody in lockdown because we didn't have to. And then it's gone, and then it's like, got it. But next time, not having the staff numbers to be able to contact in the school, yikes. If they're calling the office, that's.
Well, the police have protocols. So when they call the school and no one answers, they have a list to include my personal cell phone.
Oh, I'm sure.
They have lists and they have no problem reaching us when they want to.
Steve,
I
with
promise.
6 seconds, isn't that, we only have about 6 minutes. We have
Right.
6 minutes.
Right,
if
but they're
we're
gonna go
taking
through
10
their list of calls.
But what if we're 4 minutes in? Why? I'm just saying, let's just skip calling Steve and everybody else. So now, the police department has the phone numbers.
We can do that, that's good.
And this is gonna be addressed correctly. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next.
Mrs. Danielle Reed?
Good evening. My name is Danielle Reeves, and I live at 36077 Reeves Road in Eastlake. And I'm also following up with regards to, after the last regular school board meeting on Monday, March 11th, but prior to the special meeting that was held on Friday, March 15th at 8 a.m. that was held to correct the board's violation of the Open Meetings Act under the Ohio Sunshine Laws and re-vote on the superintendent's personnel agenda. I emailed 8 questions to the board and to the treasurer. I would like to express my sincere appreciation for the very prompt response. It was within the same few days. And however, the questions were answered by citing the Ohio Revised Code. Not being an expert in it, it took me, you have to go in and just expecting a little bit more clarification, layman's terms, to somebody that's not versed in the Ohio Revised Code. But the questions were answered, thank you very much, by citing the codes, and 11 of the 57 pages were printed incorrectly due to the wrong page layout selected while they were printed. So those will have all the evaluation pages, 11 through 29, were supposed to be printed this way, and so everything was not legible to be read, the whole reports. But in an effort for clarification and transparency from what I could gather from there, I do have a few more questions. After reviewing the newly renewed 5-year contract, is there an addendum recognizing the superintendent's new role and responsibility as the Director of Security and Operations? I did not see that in the new contract, nor is it added in as an addendum anywhere to see if that's a separate contract or what that is. It was confusing. And is there no longer an addendum that is in his current contract regarding item number 1, which is the superintendent securing his PhD? The new contract states that he has only 1 more year not to exceed $6,000 in reimbursement for the tuition. But is there a degree? What has the taxpayers been paying since 2013? The expended amount was $8,100 over a 5-year period, but what do we have as a result of that? And is he continuing? Because throughout the evaluations reports, it's stated several times that the board does not have knowledge of when the superintendent will attend his PhD, and can you be more transparent on this status? Considering in January of 2018, the board commends Mr. Thompson for continuing to pursue his PhD and is looking for updates and progress. So that's very unclear as to what's happening with that. And on my 7th question that was submitted.
You've reached the 3 minutes.
Right. Can I continue on? Just have a couple more sentences.
20 seconds.
20 seconds? Okay. How can we renew a 5-year contract for the superintendent guaranteed when the teachers cannot get a multi-year contract based on levies passing and monies being in the 5-year forecast? And where can I find, or what is the administrative salary schedule steps or index, however you'd like to call it, that is used within the district, explained in actual dollar amounts? simply searching for transparency and facts since new levies are coming. Thank you for your time.
Yes, you have.
The ops position, I'm not receiving a stipend as I did the previous year, that's why it's not in my contract. The security. The PhD, all my coursework is complete, I'm writing my dissertation. Money, you're confusing money, salary increases with contracts. Their contracts are renewed. Most teachers are on continuing contracts, which means their contract is in perpetuity. Vast majority of staff. It's called tenure. So you can't really compare a teacher to an administrator. But their contract, although the dollar amounts are unclear, the length of the contract is not unclear. But that's just a contract that governs relations between the administration, the Board of Education, and the employee group. Has nothing to do with their personal contract. All employees have one-year contracts, except for tenured people, which is, again, probably 3/4 of the teaching staff, and their contract is forever. That's what tenure means. Administration does not get tenure. Renewing a superintendent's contract 1 year before it expires is standard protocol across the state. That is, no superintendent would go into the last year of their contract, ever. So they either get renewed or they don't get renewed. So that's standard, that is normal, and a salary schedule I can provide you, it's clear as day.
Can I respond or no?
No.
Okay, I'm not allowed, but go ahead, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
But this is a business meeting
I
that
understand,
the public can attend.
completely understand.
You know, he's more than frank to sit down and meet with you and answer the personal questions. And the pages that you referenced,
But everybody wants to know, right? It's gotta be a secret.
the pages that you referenced that were misprinted or printed poorly, we'll be happy to get those to you.
May I have one more, Mrs. Mr. Cantor, Mr. Mannion?
Okay.
My name's Ken Armenia. I live at 4257 Carl Court in Willoughby. I'm doing a follow-up on my 2 questions from last time. So my follow-up to me as a business owner in Lake County, and I think I counted 14 of my employees or their children that are taxpayers, homeowners. So when we sit down and we talked about our clients' bills and expenses, of course, homeowners' property tax comes up. So the last meeting I asked a question is when the people that are getting the tax increases can't afford, in my industry, their insurance, let alone the taxes. Your last levy failed, and I admitted that I voted against it for the first time.
Our last levy did.
The continuation, I mean, that one failed. So my question to you that wasn't answered, and the issue I have is I understand call reluctance, and nobody calls and wants to answer a question, or if they want an argument. I wasn't looking for an argument, but it's been 30 days. And I have not been contacted, I have not been emailed, or answered either one of my questions, and one of the questions is irrelevant now. So the question I have is, the taxpayers, my clients, my 14,000 policyholders in the 3 counties that I have in, need to know what you're gonna do when you don't get the money. Because right now, like I stated in the last meeting, 42% of the students are on some sort of aid. You know, and I want to tell you something. I owe everybody an apology for not being part of the school meetings in the past. I was too busy watching football and enjoying the kids and having fun. The problem I see is that as a business owner, I spend thousands and thousands of dollars every year to help support the sports teams. I know that that's probably one of the first things that are going to be cut, and to make sure the kids eat lunch. And then I spent hundreds of dollars every week to feed the kids that didn't have parents that could feed them after the Saturday game. My problem is that not only did you not answer my question, you lost my vote. Because without explaining to me what you're going to do, I will not support any levies, because it's not fair to drop. And I looked at my taxes today. In 5 years, I've gone up $1,200 a year. okay? Not a huge amount of money, $100 a month or whatever, but that's over a 5-year period. I have 2 clients in here that I reviewed their taxes today on their insurance, and they went up the same proportionate amount per values go up and increases and whatever else. I get it, you guys have a hard job. But how dare you guys not answer my question? That is just off the wall, unacceptable to me, and we do thousands of reviews to Lake County residents every year on their insurances and where their costs are going, and you just did the worst sales pitch in the world to get support from somebody who's done nothing but support the schools, support the teams, and support all the levies. So to me, not answering my questions, for all of you who have the toughest job out there, is unacceptable. And I apologize to everybody in the room, but you guys didn't do your job because it would have been a simple phone call to me. So that's all I asked, and it wasn't given.
Ken, what we do right here is all the list of the questions from the last board meeting, and it's been protocol, historically, it's been protocol, and no one's ever expressed to me concern. When a question gets brought at a board meeting, I answer it at the next board meeting. Your question is a difficult one to answer, which is, if the levy doesn't pass, where will the money come from? The answer is, the money comes from nowhere.
Mr. Thompson, the reason I'm here today is I looked at your budget. $38 million in the hole in 5 years? If the
No,
levies
it's
don't
not
pass?
38 million,
What would
it's
be the number?
20
$20
million.
million. What, $20 million? I was a little off.
That's not on you.
So
That
let
is
me
not-
explain something. I work for myself. I have 5 locations. If I ran my business like that, I'd be doing a fire sale so I could save my house.
But a bit, I
So
would be
you guys
happy
not
to sit down,
responding to
I would
me
be
was
happy to
something.
sit down and explain to you how school finance works, but it doesn't work, it doesn't work anywhere remotely like your business works.
Email me and I'll be glad to
I
sit
get
down.
that, but
It-
my
it
question
doesn't even
is
work
the
the same at all.
communication part with volunteers.
Well-
Okay? I'm not here to judge your budget, but I did read your budget and saw it was millions and millions of dollars.
Sure it is.
And all I expected, and I asked for a phone call or an email from somebody, and it's been 30 days. Okay, so it's not acceptable. I apologize for you guys for not getting involved before, but that was my issue. Okay, I would like to get a response to that stuff on stuff. Okay?
The answer is very difficult to answer, because 80% of our budget, probably unlike, I don't know what you do, but 80% of our budget is people. 20% of our budget, the remaining 20% of our budget is fixed. Also do a little research on House Bill 920 and the effects of House Bill 920. 2 reasons we're in trouble. House Bill 920 passed in 1976, flatlines collections of revenue in perpetuity. So, for example, if Google moves here, move their headquarters here, one would assume, everyone out here would probably assume, well, the school's going to get more money in taxes because Google's going to bring in all these taxes. Not true. It doesn't. All it does is lower the taxes of all the other businesses, which is good for other businesses, but it doesn't increase revenue for Willoughby Eastlake. Same is true if 400 homes are built. House Bill 920 flattens us. Unlike, we have absolutely no way to increase revenue, which makes the comparison between business and education an unfair comparison. Couple that with the fact that we still wouldn't be on the ballot right now to this day had the governor not reneged on his original promise. Businesses, as you know, you used to pay it, tangible personal property tax that you no longer pay. That's a tax on inventory. That was $8.3 million that we collected in 2011. Now we collect, can you,
889,000, next year will be 500, next year will be 300, next year 79,000, the year after that 0.
and that was promised that we'd be held harmless. Schools would be held harmless. Previous governor. Next governor comes in, Kasich, wipes it out. So we get hit by frozen revenue and a loss of $8 million. We haven't been on the ballot for 8 years for new money. The 2015 was a bond issue. Bond issue has absolutely nothing to do with general operating. General operating has absolutely nothing to do with the bond issue. And we still managed to stay off with that much of a cut for 8 years, which is the longest run in school history without asking the taxpayers for more money. We have run tight. To give you another example, Mentor schools, roughly 500 less students than us, are spending over $6 million more per year to operate their school district. $6 million a year. Extrapolate that over a 5-year forecast, that's $30 million. End of our 5-year forecast, we're down 20 million. We'd still be up 10 million if we were spending at the rate they are. So, what are we gonna do? In 2012, 2011, all the employees in this room that were here then know we gutted the district in 2012. We cut 13 million a year out of our budget. That's how we made it 8 years. But there's nothing left to cut. Unless you want to see 35 kids in a classroom, unless you want to see no sports, unless you want to see no AP course offerings, et cetera, then that's what's going to happen.
And Mr. Thompson, I'm okay with that explanation. It should have been made in a phone call to me.
Okay.
You can explain it properly, but I'm gonna tell you one thing straight from my heart, you can't sell it. You need to explain it, because nobody here is gonna be able to buy it.
We understand that, and we have a mission to do, and I concur.
Mr. Parkinson, are there any more people registering to speak?
No, Mrs.
I move on to the approval of the minutes. I'm seeking a motion to approve item, I skipped the construction update.
Oh, we can't skip the construction update.
We
John,
can skip it, I can
come on up. You get to follow all that. Isn't that fun and exciting?
stop things up again. Hi, good evening, everybody. John Linshenek. I come every other month, so I'm with AECOM. I'm the project manager. I sit out at South High School, and I'm overseeing the whole program for our company. Really exciting time of year. I know school's kind of winding down, and unfortunately for us, that means things are getting really busy, and we're super stressed going into summer. I do get to at least drive home when it's light out still, so that's good. Couple good things happening over at North High School. So with 4 months left, we're really at a point where we're wrapping up a lot of the above ceiling MEP work in some portions of the building. We have painting going, casework, which is your cabinets going in, ceilings like this. So the classrooms, everything are starting to get ceilings, carpet, paint, wall base. So they're really starting to come together. Finishing some drywall, some framing of classrooms and whatnot. And then continuing on the outside of the building with the masonry veneer and putting in some windows and whatnot. So there's a lot of work left, but with 4 months left, it's all achievable. We update our schedule every 2 weeks and are closely monitoring it. Just walk through a couple of pictures. So right here is one of the mechanical rooms, the HVAC equipment. It's one of your major infrastructure parts of the building. That's pretty much put together. We are working through a startup plan over the next couple of weeks to get the air distribution system fired up and running. Here, this is the weight room. So we're working a plan with the schools to be able to move all the existing weight room equipment out of North High School prior to the demolition and the abatement and demolition this summer. So right now we'll have to go and paint, do some ceiling work, and get the flooring ready for that. Again, this is a hallway over by the music wing. You have a lot of your fire suppression, your plumbing lines, so all that's basically put together. We'll go in and insulate it, and then we can run our ceilings. Here's a look. We're up in the balcony portion, but this is looking down into the auditorium. So right now drywall's going. We'll get that cleaned up. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff with the theater lighting and the rigging, curtain rigging and stuff. So that area is going to take up to the last day. Just a lot of work with all the seating and everything that goes along with it.
Seat 565,
Close, I think.
535,
That's bad,
500 and some.
500, I think 35.
So it's a good sized auditorium for sure. And then we have, here's the gymnasium over at North. You can see it's been painted right now. And then the next step is get the gym equipment here in the next couple of weeks, followed by the flooring.
And the size of the gym is the same size as regulation size?
Yeah,
About
everything
it.
needs regulation.
It's not any smaller than for
In South June.
South Gym or the current North Gym? Or the current-
No,
I just
they're all
wanted
the
to put
same
that out
size,
there.
yeah, you have the bleachers that are retractable in to make it wider, there's the practice courts and everything, so yes, it is the same size. Yeah, when we were first building the foundations and stuff, I had to go check it, so this is small. But now that the walls are up here, well, yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty
when the
big.
foundation was in, it looked small, and now
Yeah.
the walls are in, it looks huge.
It does, so it's actually, they all meet all the requirements.
Drywall finishing, so the next step, we'll sand it out, paint it, and get the ceilings going. This is actually an administration wing. This is the bridge, we're calling it the bridge, between the STEM and the humanities wing. So right now, we're scheduling the concrete pour, and then we'll continue getting exterior envelopes. This is over the STEM wing, looking at the stairs that lead up to the second floor. So right now, they've actually already started drywalling the left side of the picture. Getting more drywall going up in the art room. And this is looking over the student dining, over the collaboration seating gatherings area as well. So a lot of high ceilings and looking at the Performing Arts Center. Again, collaboration seating, humanities wing, you can kind of see the orange, the different shades of orange, red paint on the walls there. And the ceilings are going in. That's the casework. That casework's actually installed already. So these rooms, once you really start to get that stuff, they actually start to go together pretty quick. All the furniture is scheduled delivered for North towards mid-end of June. This is a look outside, just continuing to wrap the building with brick, just a lot of brick. The whole exterior is basically brick with a little bit of metal panels. Okay. Moving down the street to Longfellow. So Longfellow is basically wrapping up over the next couple of weeks. We're really hoping to have the architect owner come in early May, do what we call a punch list. That's where you walk, you start, a little ding in the wall, you make sure the lights aren't flickering, you make sure everything's actually working properly. So we'll do that. That'll give us a little bit of time to fix that stuff. The decorative monumental stair when you walk in, we're getting that tweaked just a little bit, so that should be finishing up. Just a lot of loose ends we're finishing up right now, our next couple of weeks. As you'll see in some pictures, furniture has been delivered. We're about 90% of it's there. A couple miscellaneous specialty items will come in later. Other than that, the big thing here is at all the schools, we have an abatement and demolition that we can't kick off until the students and teachers are gone. So we've been working diligently with Steve Johnson and the staff and Pat and IT to work through a plan to focus at North and Longfellow, because those are the bigger schools with the abatement. Get those down, and then we'll head over to the middle school 1st of July. So here's the exterior. So bricks wrapping up, the roofer's up there detailing out the roof, finishing up what we call the metal coping. So really it's coming together, and we'll start sidewalks here probably mid-May, once teachers are starting to really kind of leave. The front canopy, finishing up the details on that as well. And then the gray wood, that's our air barrier that will get covered in metal panels, which I think are coming this week or next week. Here's furniture. So right now they bring it in, they stage it, and then we'll get it cleaned up, and then we'll put it exactly where it goes per the drawing. We actually do get drawings for tables here, chairs, and all that stuff. Again, picture, doing some what I call punches to see, like we did some drywall patching on some areas, so we'll go back, we'll repaint the wall, make sure it looks good. Here's another picture of the collaboration area for the second grade. And lights and everything. Typical classroom with tables put in place and whatnot. This is the decorative stair. It's not in there. These pictures are about a week old, but it's starting to come together. It's a spiral staircase. It's been quite the challenge, but we're getting through it. It's going to look really cool when it's done, which leads up to like the media center on the second floor. So it's really, really cool feature. Kitchen, all that's been cleaned up. Our next steps with that, we'll get some of our final inspections and then bring in the Ohio Department of Health for the final food safety inspection. Here's the student dining with the cloud ceilings, getting that put together. Here is Longfellow's gym, so that's been cleaned out and the gym flooring is starting to go this week. As you can see, the basketball hoops are up and stuff, so that's what the other two school gyms are going to look like in the next 2 weeks.
That's where we'll likely see East Lake. Basketball playing out of.
In Longfellow's gym?
Yeah, that's a sweet gym. Full
I was
size.
looking at it for bingo. It's not big enough.
Big, I don't know, you go look at it. Definitely go look at it. Possibility.
Typical restroom, this is area A, which ties in close to the student dining for events and the gymnasium, with men's and women's. Typical projector, so we did a mock-up with the writable surface, so the teachers will actually be able to write on the wall. It's a little bit different than a typical marker board that you see. So that will work with the interactive projectors. All right, moving south to Willoughby at the high school YMCA Senior Center. So right now at South High School, what we're doing, this area A, the humanities wing, we're finishing up classrooms, finishing up a couple loose ends in that area. Really big push to get out of there by 1st of May. We'll get in other areas. Admin area, we're painting, we're putting ceilings in, lights, tile in the restrooms, and finishing up a lot of glass on the outside as well. Our mason, he's about 1 or 2 weeks away from finishing up 100%. So that's a really good sign when the mason starts to demobilize on your site. The gym, it's painted. The gym equipment's coming this week. The music room, we're doing some above ceiling rough-in. Same thing with student dining. Next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll be able to start running our ceiling grid. Mechanical room piping's 100%. We're starting to start up our systems. Our field house is coming together really well as well. We're going to start painting in there. Our pools are coming together as well. We're doing a trench drain around the pool that when you get out, the water goes into it, with our intent to pour the slab on grade decks end of the month. Then we'll be able to put tile over it starting mid-June. Elevators are there, ready to get installed this week, so others will be coming back. And then we have just tons of site work to do. We have tons of site concrete with sidewalks, curbs, and asphalt, all starting up right now. The YMCA and Senior Center, since they are an integral part to this project, right now we're finishing up a lot of block walls in the YMCA. Their recreational pool features for the kids are there. We're going to start doing their walls and their rough-in. And then Senior Center, this is projected to be done in about 2 months. So right now, same thing. Floor's going down, ceiling pads are being dropped, casework's installed. So we're really looking at finishing blocks of the building to give us enough time to focus on other areas and then go backtrack and punch out loose ends. So this is our typical classroom. This is what they all look like right now, the casework, the painting, the carpet down. So really all we have left there is furniture, put some data jacks in the wall and projectors up. So it's really looking good from a schedule perspective. This is the admin. It's really hard to tell, but those walls are painted and the ceiling grid's up right now as well. So all we gotta do is go in there, flooring, put some glass on the outside, and we're good. This is a view of the main entrance. So right now, if you drove past it, that curtain wall over the main entrance is actually up right now. We'll start to put all the glass in. We're looking forward to it because the building's kind of dark in that area, so it's going to just brighten up tremendously. So, but all the sidewalks are done and it's looking really good. Again, it's our main electrical room, so we have a lot of power now, and we are on the permanent power, which is a huge milestone in our world. This is the competition gym. It's painted. Now it's just waiting for the gym equipment and then the wood gym flooring. It looks a little dark there in the picture. It's kind of misleading. That's like 2 temporary lights, bay lights, but we have not turned the permanent lights on yet. But it looks really good. This is the field house as well. All of our mechanical systems are done, and the painter's in there right now painting like crazy to get ahead of the gym equipment. This is the competition pool. So that's the trench drain I was talking about. And then that upper level mezzanine has been poured. Now it's ready for the bleachers to be installed for all the spectators seating. YMCA, there's just a lot of block walls in there. Just the Masons spent probably good 3 weeks in there getting all their walls up. They have tons of family restrooms and locker rooms. Metal panels on the outside, we just finished all those, which is great. And then this is some photos of the Senior Center coming together as well. So really just drop some ceilings, put some flooring in, and we're done. So, any questions?
John,
Am I going to
are we on time and on budget?
Yeah, we're looking good. We're on time and on budget.
Okay, and if you.
There's going to be some the summer's going to be really busy. We did award the abatement demolition. We've got approval from the cities to work weekends as needed, just due to the size of these. We have crew scheduled work. The abatement guy's inside, so nobody's even know he's there, but he's going to work 7 days a week. And then the site work contractor will be tearing that building down 6 days a week.
And so when do you anticipate we need to have, all of us, need to have all of our things out in the buildings?
Day of the Teachers Leave for Parade, May 25th.
Yeah.
Steve Johnson would kill me. Don't put that. No, so we're actually, I haven't really got into the details much at North and Longfellow. It's been Mike and Kevin. They've been working with Steve. I think there's a couple days. I forget. Steve wanted 10 days. So we've worked through a plan because we actually have to sequence it. We actually had our in-house structural engineer look at a phasing plan that we could, for lack of a better way to explain this, take out a 10-foot section of the building and have people working in like this wing while we're taking down the building on this wing. So we've got a lot of people involved. The middle school is not going to, has till after 4th of July. So there's a detailed plan being worked through for North and Longfellow anyways. Impacted by
Just a
this.
quick, I think I'm doing what Reno was doing, dispelling rumors. When you were asking about, is the gym, because everyone's like, the gym is smaller. The spiral staircase at Longfellow, it's just decorative. It's not for students to use, is it?
Yeah, no, it's for.
Really?
Yeah, it's got handrails and
I
everything.
don't, I
They really
can't, I
need that?
can't visualize the littles on the spiral staircase.
No.
It's
I
not
think
a
of them
spi-
falling
it's
through
not
it.
a
Well,
tight
it's not like a
spiral like
tight
this.
one, it's a,
So
It's more like a
a
curve.
sweeping.
It just
curve.
sweeps.
Okay.
I wouldn't call, if you're envisioning
I
spiral
am
like this,
envisioning that.
it's not.
And I'm envisioning kindergartners and saying.
Yeah, I don't want to mislead you, it's like a
It's
sweeping.
spiral
Okay.
staircase. It just sweeps,
Do the high schools have lockers
yes.
in the capacity that they have right now, one per student, or more
No.
of a sport function?
No, we surveyed the
And they
students.
said they didn't need them.
Well, they didn't say they didn't need them. They said that the usage was about a third of the number of lockers that we have in our high schools. So we put about half, more than what they said. So sports lockers have the same number of lockers they've always had, that's no change. But the student lockers are more like you would see, which is we're seeing this more and more in construction across the state. They work like the lockers are working in the new section of South right now.
With the halves?
They're halves,
With the
and
benches and-
they punch in a code, and they have that locker for the day, and then when they take their stuff out, that locker could be anybody's the next day.
So there's enough lockers for students, when you say half, it's half the locker, not half the amount of lockers?
No, half the amount of students.
So.
Because half of, 3/4 of our students say they don't use a locker.
For example, they're placed sporadically.
So they just ask for a locker if they want a locker?
They don't ask for it, they just go to it,
It's like
punch a
an
code
amusement, it's like
in.
an amusement park. When you go to
Oh,
the
it's like
amusement
the
park,
same.
I'm gonna be on this
Universal
side
lockering.
of the park of the amusement, so I'm gonna leave my stuff checked in at that locker. And, you know what I mean? And then
Yes.
if they're on the other side of the building, you know, so I'm still getting prepared to get my kids nice heavy, you know, book bags, but at the same point, they can, once they understand how their day is going, there will be, you know, they can use those lockers for that. Because my daughter doesn't even use her locker at North
Most of
Really.
them
She didn't realize her
don't.
locker
They
was
have
being taken out and
backpacks.
repurposed. She came in, there was no locker, but she doesn't use her locker, so.
Okay.
And they're half the height, but they're wider. The current ones are real narrow,
Yeah.
so they're wider, they fit book bags better, and that sort of thing than the ones we put in at North that we just took out, the black ones that we're gonna repurpose at Little League Middle. Yeah, they're actually a little bit wider than even soy, but they're like soy, yeah, if you're familiar with soy.
Yeah, soys are a little dangerous
They're
because they're
too-
on top of each other.
Yeah, these
So they
are.
slam each other's heads in them and stuff like that.
That's not good.
But not on purpose.
Yeah, no, they're one level height and there's a countertop runs across the top.
Yes, like the ones at South where there's a countertop.
Exactly
Okay.
like
All
that.
right.
And if we find that we're short on lockers, then we can go back in and order more and install more. But I don't think we're gonna need them, and that's based on student feedback, not my perception.
And then the North kids think you're blowing up the building to demo it. My nieces
Actually, I
came
wish we
over,
could, because we
they
need
gave
it
me
to
a
go
full
down really fast.
dissertation. No, really, they're blowing the building up like right
Let's
when they
not
leave
use
school.
the
I'm like,
terminology
Yeah.
blow up.
I don't
Let's
know.
use
There's
the terminology
asbestos
to blow
there.
up.
I don't think, but that's what they think.
No, we're gonna come in with a couple big excavators to take it down. A lot of people are like, oh, they can bring the wrecking ball? No,
Yeah.
it depends on the building type.
In the high school, the furniture for the secretaries and stuff, but who decided on making it a fixed countertop on the wall in the area? It's like, it's not conducive to work at where you you know, for somebody who's short like me, my countertop is in one spot, I'm not ergonomically, it's like
It's like a nurse's station, like a
It's-
tri-point.
Is it
like
Longfellow?
those?
no, at North,
And North, well,
in the front. It's
yeah,
like-
the architect would have designed that in the space usage. I would
You
say
should
let's
have
get the
asked people who
furniture
sit
in.
at it on. Okay?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you, I sit for the summer at Grant Elementary, and that countertop that's affixed there is horrendous to work at. You can't get a keyboard drawer underneath it, because then you can't sit up close enough. It's just,
We should look at the room and see if there's a desk scheduled to go in there.
there isn't,
Okay, so,
and that's what needs to be.
And is Longfellow's playground gonna be ready for when school opens in the middle of August?
it's gonna be closed.
Both
It's
of
gonna be
them,
closed,
because it's a
yeah.
K through 2 and then it's a 3 through 5.
There's two playgrounds.
Yeah, that's the plan, get those in. I mean, once school opens, I mean, we're all pushing towards August 10th for the grand openings. Obviously, school's the 15th, but just because school opens doesn't mean we're gonna be gone. I mean, we have to do some seating and some miscellaneous things, but it will not disrupt school operations. A lot of questions tonight.
I had a question about, I understand, you know, competition pool at South, you know, North will also be using it and the Y will also be using it. But why does South have a competition gym and North doesn't? What is the difference there, considering
Both have
North?
competition gyms.
What is a competition?
Yeah.
Competition gym is like your main court like you have now. That's a competition gym. Both have a competition gym, a
I didn't
main,
know it was called a competition.
Okay, yeah,
I
because.
didn't know what that
what
meant.
they use in their lingo.
I got
Yeah,
it.
We use a lot of
because
that.
you were just
It's the
saying
main
gym
one.
at North,
main
but
gym.
you
One has
said
a main gym,
competition.
and the reason the field house and pool are at South is because that's our collaboration with the YMCA, and that's where the YMCA was.
Right.
So, but we are having YMCA activities branch will go into NCI Eastlake as well. So there'll be some YMCA programming there as well. And then as far as gym space goes, obviously it's NCI Eastlake, but you've got the new North High School, then you've got the newly renovated gym, newly renovated gyms at NCI Eastlake. So there's 3 gyms for practices for North students.
Okay.
So
It
it's
just-
not any different, that's the exact same number of gyms, space that South students have.
Okay, just what, in your talking, you were just saying North's gym, and then you said South's competition gym, and I was like,
Sorry, the
that
main.
got my attention.
Yeah, sometimes we get a little.
Same
you know,
size,
Just wanted to make
same
sure.
wood flooring, same everything.
Oh, sorry, geez, I just had a-
Yes, I have a question concerning the gymnasium. I go around to a lot of the different high schools. One of the things that I've noticed that they've made changes on doing is accessing space for people in wheelchairs. Are either one of the new gyms, because when you go into South now, it became a problem for me last year. Because I'm not in a wheelchair, but you have all these folks with their wheelchairs right at the doors. And I watched a few of the officers actually have to move them out of the way. Are you gonna set up a designated area, or is there a designated area for a lot of the parents and grandparents that are in wheelchairs? Because Perry, Menor, Mayfield, even Garfield, like I said, I go all over for high school sports. They have areas that are set up like right behind the scores table. It's a little wider to get them down, or they have them set up at the end, because one of the spots at South's right now also is where the team, South's basketball team, come in and out of their locker room. There's usually about 4 gentlemen that are either in their wheelchairs or in their walkers. And I watched one of the players fall down last season coming out of the locker room.
I'll get with superintendent, we'll look at the bleachers that were designed to make sure there is that. I haven't really studied them. But let me take a look at that. There should, I mean, yeah, we have ADA accessibility, like for example, to get on the elevated track in the field house, there's a ramp on the 2nd floor, you take the elevator up, and there's a ramp there. So it should have been designed with that, I'll double check, but yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't.
Our football stadiums have the
Football
cutouts.
stadium had it,
So
the northeast.
my assumption is, then we'll double check just to make sure, but I think that's required by ADA.
Yeah, there's, the architect designs to the ADA compliance laws, so. With it being a newer school, I don't know how old like Garfield Heights is and some of the older schools, but it's a good thing to point out for sure. Take a look at it.
The competition gym for South. held?
That's a program.
Gym classes could be scheduled in one of three areas at South. One, in in the field house, two of those courts are ours,
Okay,
or they could be in the competition gym.
okay. And do you know, because it was kind of up in the air, I've talked to somebody who's working on the building, and I also work at the Y, so I've talked to those people as well. Is there going to be Y accessibility to that track during the day when our kids are in the gym?
Yes. So, but what we'll want to do is not schedule our PE classes around the noon time, because that's when all the men come in to play basketball.
Okay,
So I'd rather avoid that one,
right,
even though they're on a separate court, separated by a curtain.
right.
Still, I think I get where you're going.
Well, it was even just security-wise of having that big track and there's no glass around it or anything. I'm just very aware of security issues on something like that. I don't like it being very open with somebody disgruntled with the school comes in and takes out a gym class. That's kind of scary.
I mean, realistically, that could happen anyways. But you have to, their IDs will allow them to get through the locked doors only at prescribed time. So
Okay.
the kids will only be able to come through back and forth when they're scheduled for gym time. Obviously, we won't schedule gym time around that high YMCA usage
Okay.
time. And then those Y members aren't able to access or go through those doors.
So do they have to scan through the door after they're already in the Y as well to
They
access
could
the
enter
track
into
and
the
stuff?
high school, they would have to go through another door that's
Okay.
buzzard and camera.
All right. Thank you.
There's tons of cameras. Okay, good. All right, thanks again for having me. See you
Yes,
guys
sir.
in a month or so.
Thank you. Looking for the approval of minutes, 2A, approval of the minutes of March 11, 2019.
Madam Vice President,
Yes,
I
Mr. Jones?
motion to approve item 2A, approval of minutes of March 11, 2019.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Madam Vice President.
Thank you, Dr. Bell. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Parkinson, will you call the roll?
Mr. Jones? Yes. Dr. Beal? Yes. Mrs. Wojcicki?
Yes.
Mrs. Ernst?
Yes. Looking for the motion to approve item 2B, the approval of the minutes of March 15th, 2019.
Madam President?
Yes, Mrs.
Motion to approve minutes to be approval minutes of March 15, 2018.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Jones?
I second that motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Parkinson, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Wojcicki?
Yes.
Mr. Jones? Yes. Dr. Beal? Yes. Mrs. Ernst?
Yes. Motion's passed. Looking for the motion approval for 2C, the approval of the minutes of April 2nd, 2019. Is there,
Madam Vice President, I move that we approve minutes of April 2nd, 2019.
thank you, Dr. Beal. Is there a second?
Vice President, I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Parkinson, will you call the roll?
Dr. Beal? Yes. Mrs. Wojcicki?
Yes.
Mr. Jones? Yes. Mrs. Ernst?
Yes, motion is carried. Now it is time for the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Ernst, members of the board. The first item on my agenda is the second resolution for the August levy. Just, again, an FYI, due to the state laws governing when levies have to be filed, it is not possible for the Board of Education or the community to know the outcome of the levy prior to having to vote for the other two resolutions necessary for the November levy. So in the event that August fails, we'll already have the two resolutions ready to go for the November. It has nothing to do with waiting for outcomes of the law. So this is the second one. Tomorrow morning I'll go over to the Board of Elections upon approval and review.
This item requires separate vote. You've heard the treasurer's recommendation, looking for the approval of 3A, a resolution determining to proceed to submit to the electors of the Willoughby East Lake School District the question of an additional tax levy for the purpose of current expenses pursuant to section 5705.21 of the revised code.
Madam Vice President,
Yes, Ms.
I make that motion to pass resolution 3A. A resolution determining to proceed to submit to the electors of the Willoughby East Lake School City District the question of an additional tax levy for the purpose of current expenses pursuant to section 5705.21 of the revised code.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Madam Vice President,
Yes.
I second that motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Parkinson, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Dr. Beal?
Yes.
Yes. Motion is carried.
Thank you, Mrs. Earl. Members of the board, next item for consideration is the financial report ending March 31st. That can be found in Exhibit B. Next for your consideration are the amended appropriations for state audit purposes. Item D are the amended certificate of estimated resources for the county auditor's office. Item E are purchase orders and blanket certificates for your approval. There are 3 blanket purchase orders for your consideration. This is per board policy. Item F are advance of general funds. There is just one to a federal grant fund in the amount of $550. Item G is return of advances. There are 3 for your consideration: food service, a state grant, and a federal grant. Item H is a transfer from unclaimed funds. This is to pay a vendor who will pay a claim on unclaimed funds. And we follow all state audit and our revised code regulations with these unclaimed funds. And the amount is $700. Item I, transfer of funds. There's just one for your consideration. This is to the employee termination benefit fund in the amount of $75,000. Item J is a grant application acceptance, and there are 3 grants for your consideration on tonight's agenda. Gifts and donations under item K. The Longfellow PTO and the Edison PTO and Longfellow PTA generously donated to the district in the amount shown under item K. Item L are student activity program purposes, goals, proposed budgets, and revisions. There are 3 for your consideration tonight. And lastly, the sale of surplus equipment by public auction or scrap. We have 2, we have a mower and a number cooler. Those are cooler.
Thank you, Mr. Parkinson. It is now time for the superintendent's report on the question and answer from the last board meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Zurin. I think we already addressed Kent, although obviously, the way that we've been doing this isn't working. So we'll make some adjustments to how we do this. Stacy also spoke, and Stacy, I think we answered at least partially, or at least I hope we answered at least in part. The second piece you brought up was about Crossroads, just to follow up to Crossroads. We have met with Crossroads, we have meetings again. The difficulty with Crossroads, as Mrs. Bauer stated previously, is the funding is there, grant money is there, bodies are not there. It's been, Crossroads has had a very difficult time. The hours they work the employees and the amount of money they pay those employees to keep those employees. So it's become very challenging. So there are holes all over the place in our coverage that wasn't intended, and still continues to be a problem simply by virtue of not being able to find those people. So we have some different ideas in place, and we're going to meet. Mrs. Bowers, is that scheduled correct?
Yes.
So we will meet again and see if we can find some resolution that allows us more access to more people. But even when they leave here, their day is not done, which is part of the issue. They go and work at Crossroads even longer after their day here. So it's a pretty difficult job. Continues to be a problem. And then in terms of questions that were brought up today, I think we answered most of those, but if not, we'll do some follow-up to make sure we did. resolutions, Mrs. Zurin. Board of Education, item A for your consideration is an Educational Service Center Northeast Ohio agreement. Don't let the name fool you, that is Cuyahoga County, which has now changed its name to the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio and not Cuyahoga County, so I'm sure that was confusing.
Okay, thank you. This item requires a separate vote. You've heard the superintendent's recommendation, looking for motion to approve item 5A, Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio agreement.
Madam Vice President,
Mr. Jones.
I motion to approve item 5A, Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio.
Thank you. Is there a second? I will second Vice President. Thank you, Mrs. Perchinsky. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Parkinson, can you call the roll?
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Dr. Beal?
Abstain.
And Mrs. Zerr?
Yes. Motion is carried.
Thank you, Mrs. Zurin. The item B for your consideration is HI Translation and Interpreting Agreement. It is a contract to help bring in language interpreters when reps do that, makes that necessary.
Thank you. You have heard the superintendent's recommendation, looking for the motion to approve item 5B, HI Translation and Interpreting Agreement.
Madam Vice President,
Yes,
I
Mrs.
make a
Bridges.
motion to pass resolution 5B, HI translation and interpreting agreement.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Madam Vice President, second the motion.
Thank you, Dr. Beal. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Parkinson, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Dr. Beal?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Zerr?
Yes. Motion is carried.
Item C for your consideration is a release and waiver agreement. This is an agreement sending a student to CVEC for educational purposes.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation, looking for a motion to approve item 5C, release and waiver agreement.
Madam Vice President,
Yes, Dr. Bill.
I move that we pass item 5C, release and waiver.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Madam Vice President,
Mr. Jones?
I second that motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Parkinson, will you call the roll?
Dr. Beal?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mrs. Zerr?
Yes. Motion is carried.
Thank you. This is Vice President, right? It's weird. Item D for your consideration is contract for furnishing school pictures. We put that out to bid. That is the lowest qualified bidder. Item E for your consideration is an overnight out-of-district field trip. You've seen this before, but there's a modification to it. This is the South High School seniors traveling to England, which is a place that most of us would like to go. Item F for your consideration is another trip. It is the South High School academic decathlon team to compete in the academic decathlon national tournament in Bloomington, Minnesota. Item G for your consideration is a whole list of first reading of policies for your nighttime enjoyment.
It's actually the second reading.
Oh, that's right, these are adoption, I'm sorry, adoption, so these are already ready for your vote.
Yeah, they were first reading last month.
Right, it's the adoption, not for first reading. And item H for your approval is the personnel agenda. Again, all the people that appear on these lists are pending satisfactory records from the Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation, Department of Education, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation before they become permanent.
Thank you. The next meeting of this Board of Education will be on May 13th, 2019 at 7 o'clock p.m. at the Willoughby East Lake Board of Education building located at 35353 Curtis Boulevard in East Lake. I am now looking for a motion to approve the consent calendar and adoption of the consent calendar.
Madam Vice President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mrs. Perchinsky. Is there a second?
Madam Vice President, I second.
Thank you, Dr. Beal. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Parkinson, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Paczynski?
Yes.
Dr. Bill?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Zerman?
Yes, motion is carried. Is there anybody here representing the press tonight? Any press review? Okay. Any questions, any? Okay, we appreciate you being here. Make a motion to, looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting of the regular Board of Education. Looking for the motion.
Madam Vice President,
Yes, Mrs.
I make
Perchinsky.
that motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Madam Vice President, I second that.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Parkinson, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Paczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Dr. Beal?
Yes.
Mrs. Zerman?
Yes. Thank you.